Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 3 premiere of What If. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, the intro to this is so interesting because it's like, I guess, a self-fulfilling prophecy or what? Because I guess it's like maybe some of what we saw at the beginning was just kind of like a more stylized version of what we saw later on. Like the whole, because it's like, oh, like the Avengers fighting like the Gamma Wars. And I was like, interesting. Because, well, I'm so stupid. What that represents, because I guess it might, I don't know. I guess it was supposed to be a thing of, the cartoon came about because the Gamma Wars had already happened at that point in time. I was unclear the timeline on it, but obviously, like, because it's like a very like old school cartoon, so that's why I was like, I don't know if it was meant to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy or what. Either way, I love our like very interesting twist on Captain America: Winter Soldier, which I think we already basically got one last season with Captain Carter, but this time it's like unlikely duo I wasn't expecting, and that being Sam and Bruce. And I love that Sam gets to outpace someone because it's like, cool, I'm faster than you. Doesn't have to worry about the Steve just constantly like zooming past him. But yeah, like I think it's beautiful also bringing in something that we don't see get utilized a lot, but obviously Sam being, a vet who ends up helping other military people and him helping out Bruce. It's like, right, Bruce has always been afraid of himself, and there's actually something really powerful about him being in a setting with other vets and stuff, because it's like there are a lot of parallels you can draw. Like obviously he's in the more science fictional side of things, but I think there's a lot of parallels to a lot of that trauma and pain and fear that Bruce feels that so many other soldiers could feel as well. So I just thought that was such an interesting little element to that, and I was like, oh, I thought it was fascinating. And it's like it built this friendship where it's like, right, this isn't just someone I'm helping out. Sam began to look at Bruce as an actual friend and actually helped him through everything. It's like, right, it's so interesting because it's like, well, has Bruce Banner ever gone to therapy? It's like, I don't think therapy is going to always help, but it is that thing of, and Bruce said it himself, of like, everyone always sees him as a monster. He's like, people are afraid of me. He's like, but I might be just as, if not even more so, afraid of myself than other people are, But Sam was there to be that hand, and that's just true of who Sam is, just wanting to be that guy who always extends out a hand. And either way, they were on a boat. It looked like it was Sam, Bruce, and his sister. And it seems like him and, I guess you kind of almost like the Bruce and Sam relationship is kind of like, it kind of encompasses both his relationship with Steve as well as his relationship with Bucky. It's kind of all amalgamated with his relationship with Bruce. But while they were out on the boat, Bruce had an incident and got scared, and the biggest fear for him was, I don't want my friend to see me like this. Like so much of the world fears me. I never want this person who got to know me as Bruce Banner to ever have to see me that way. So he ran away, and his desperation to rid himself once and for all, he uses gamma radiation, thinking it made this monster, maybe it can get rid of the monster, and he created a monster in its entirety, basically an apex gamma radiated creature without the human mind of Bruce Banner just running rampant. The Avengers joined up together as this thing like basically spawned a legion. It turns into like this becomes Pacific Rim, but obviously it's just, mechs versus kaijus, and the OG Avengers fight, and they're down one member because Bruce isn't a part of that, but ultimately the Avengers fail, but new heroes stepped up. We eventually see one of them is later on Monica, but I'm curious if that was Maria. Like, and the reason why Monica is piloting it now might be like, sadly in this continuity, Maria like either died during the fight, or maybe she kind of or maybe she sadly got sick and died, just like she does in the mainline continuity, right? So, but then we also have, well, it started off with the 3, but, I guess others eventually joined their ranks because, we have, ultimately they were able to push back the Gamma War and end it, but 10 years later, things start resurfacing, and now they have to deal with the Apex, which has risen again. The way they talked about it made it seem like it wasn't the exact same Apex, but maybe it was. Maybe one of the other rank and file members, given enough time, was able to build up its strength to come rise as the new Apex, or it was the previous Apex from 10 years ago, just now able to rise up and, you know, be stronger than ever. But we see what kind of the Avengers squad entails now. It's Sam leading it. We have Monica. We have Bucky. We also have Yelena and Yelena and Natasha's mom and dad. We have Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, I believe, and Nakia. Because I was wondering, I was like, that's not. I was about to say, because I was like, I remember Shuri looking a little different in her previous appearances, but it's like, no, this isn't Shuri, this is Nakia. So it's interesting too, like really quickly, Sam at no point drew his wings. So I guess in this continuity, he never became Falcon. Because I guess, like, you know, Steve sadly died, and so he just picked up the mantle and became like just Steve Rogers-esque, but never actually. I mean, once again, we don't see them fight outside of their respective suits, mechs, so we don't know. It's also begged the question, like, well, what happened with the Bucky situation? Because, like, well, because maybe a lot of stuff played out differently in this history because Bucky's here, so maybe they were able to reprogram him without Steve. Once again, that's the whole storyline of Winter Soldier, but I don't know. It makes you wonder how much stuff they had to deal with in this continuity, and the stuff they did have to deal with. All right, because I remember, because like the person they were fighting at the beginning in that little intro, like from the cartoon, was like, oh yeah, that was actually, it wasn't a Hulk, it was Ultron, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm going on tangents. I'm sorry. I just remember that. But it's like my point. The reason why that kind of sparked that, because I was like, what other challenges did they have to face in this continuity? But having mechs on their side, so like, did they have to deal with Thanos? Did they have to deal with Ultron? What other world-ending threats did they have to deal with post Gamma War? You know, especially now they have like a fleet of Avenger mechs. So. There's a little bit of a Civil War theme and element here. Civil War / more so Infinity War, where it was kind of the whole thing of Monica's the one that's suggesting, like, yo, we should go find and talk to Bruce. He might be able to help us because we barely got by the last scrape 10 years ago. And it's like, no, we can handle this on our own. And it's kind of like Tony and Cap not talking and them being split. It's very reminiscent of that. And so Monica and Sam try to handle it, but once again, it's a fleet, it's a whole army of those gamma radiated monsters, and it's like, right, we're not equipped to handle this. So Monica sent Bucky to try and find Bruce. Well, I think he said, like, from the cartoon, it says that Bruce is living in something. He's living in something inside of a volcano. He's like, oh, it's a pretty good show or something like that. But luckily, he was able to track down Bruce. And Sam ends up going to see him, and he's isolated himself in very traditional fashion, where it seems like this is, obviously for Bruce is always one step forward, two steps back, and now he's taking steps back to kind of who he was during Incredible Hulk, because the Incredible Hulk was like, he had disappeared for a while, was just kind of off on his own, hidden away for years and stuff. So we kind of have a little bit of that element here, where Bruce had isolated himself. And he's like, oh, what'd you expect to see here, Sam? A monster? Because, he hid himself away because it's like, right, this is my fault. And it's like, you've just been in hiding this entire time. And that's the point. It's like, right, you helped create this situation and you rather what? Hide because of your fear? And it's like, because Bruce is like, I'm just going to make matters worse. And you already have one. He didn't know the Apex had come back yet because obviously he's been isolated. Which the island he's on, it's called Astra Islands. I wonder, is that somewhere we've been in the MCU and I'm just not remembering? Like, is it someplace from like the Eternals or something like that? So I looked it up. Doesn't seem like it's somewhere that's been in the MCU, but it is tied to Bruce Banner. It's somewhere that is tied to him in the comics. Like, I think how he kind of utilizes it in this episode is kind of how he's utilized it in the comics. I don't know if it's like it seemed like it might be a very classic comic thing that they kind of pulled from, but either way, But once again, Sam is trying to extend that hand out and trying to reach out, but Bruce is just kind of like, no, I can help you with this protocol though, and it's the Mighty Avenger protocol, and it's like, it's not because he knew this threat was coming, but if there was ever a need to deal with him, it's like this was meant to be like I created a protocol to kill me if necessary. The only means of dealing with me. So, and ultimately that protocol involves basically going full Power Rangers, Voltron, however you want to handle it, where all the mechs come together. Once again, the fact is we're having like basically mechs and kaijus. It's pretty cool. I already knew this concept was ahead of time. Like it's one of those like concepts I saw kind of talked about and discussed. Even though I avoided the trailer, so I don't know where all these episodes are going to go, but some of the concepts behind them or elements to them I knew about ahead of time. But it's like, yeah, that's pretty dope having them like fused together like that. But it ultimately comes down to Bruce coming in and saving the day, and he's going to release a nuke, but he's going to absorb all the gamma radiation. And it's like, no, like if you do this, there's no going back. And I love that thing for Bruce where he's just like, for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid. And he drops it and it explodes and he goes full Godzilla-esque. I mean, he's got the tail and everything and turns into a full-blown kaiju battle as they're duking it out. I'd almost thought they were going to go a little, even though I haven't seen the movie, Godzilla X Kong or Godzilla and Kong, like where like Kong has like a giant, like, it doesn't have like a prosthetic arm or something, but it's like a gauntlet. I thought that's what was going to happen. I felt like when Sam fired that fist, that Hulk was going to put it on and bam, 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 piece up the monster. But it's like, nah, he goes full Godzilla and hits him with, I guess, gamma breath in this case instead of atomic breath. So, but it ends up killing a creature because all the other creatures are just waiting because it's like, okay, they're waiting to see which apex predator comes out on top, and Bruce did. And so Sam, just believing like, no, like I know my friend's in there and we're going to have a talk because this, like you said, Monica, this might be the only way to save the world. And he's like, I know you're scared that when people see you, all they see is a monster. But he's like, all I see is my friend. And I hope that when you look at me, that's what you see too. And he was able to reach Bruce. That's extra. It's actually really, it's beautiful, but also it's extremely sad because you're like, he's forever stuck as that thing. There is no reverting to a human again. Yes, he has his consciousness in there, but he's like full blown that form now. It's interesting too because it's like, well, like some of that happens once again. I haven't seen the more recent Godzilla movies, but isn't that like Millie Bobby Brown's character's like relation to Godzilla in those movies? Once again, coming from the place of I haven't seen them, so it's so interesting that Sam kind of plays a similar role. But it's like, yeah, like they have their own kind of monster army in a lot of ways, if in case things ever happen. And of course, like Bruce goes back to Astra Island with his army, and it's just, I love that thing, especially from the Watcher, where he's like, right, the biggest things kind of start with the smallest things sometimes. And obviously it's like, even in this situation, just someone's kindness, someone extending out a hand, someone reaching out with friendship is enough to kind of save the world in this regard. So kind of an interesting thing continuity wise. So once again, I haven't seen the trailer, so I don't know if this season's going to connect like all the other ones do. Like, obviously, season 1 connected in a very specific way. Season 2 connected in a very specific way by the end. So I'm curious to see if this has a similar trajectory or how this season's going to wrap up. But I'm not going to get too caught up in that. I'm just going to take it one episode at a time to see what scenarios we get this season. But I just thought it was just, like I said, dope concept and element all around. I've definitely gotten more into, like, I always thought mechs were cool. I grew up on, Power Rangers, and I watched a little Voltron when I was younger, or something like a Zoids. I was a really big fan of Zoids when I was a kid. So, but yeah, I've always really enjoyed mechs. I always thought they were cool. So that mix of kaiju's, like, just a recipe for success in my opinion. So yeah. I'm excited to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with, well, whatever that scenario may be. It's kind of weird to say that considering, like, well, they're all kind of disconnected but also connected. So we'll see how things play out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.